having a really good offer for your business makes it easier to market and much easier to sell. It's way easier to sell things that are compelling and people want to buy than having to try and sell something that people don't actually want to buy. And so what I would tell you to do when I tell a lot of our clients is you need to focus on making something that is so good that even if you charge a lot more money for it, people are gonna be like, it's still worth all of the value.
Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast.
All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. Kevin and Angel here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 3 pillars that you kind of need to have in place in order to grow your business to 50K plus a month. And so really what that boils down to is marketing, sales, and growing a team. So we can kind of lump a couple different things into those different categories, but just to kind of kick this off, I've been talking to a lot of different people about this, and I did a post a couple weeks ago about like the business that most dog trainers actually want. And I think the business that most dog trainers actually want is a business that's making between $50,000 to $100,000 a month. The reason for that is because that's the type of business that actually gives you freedom to be able to hire, buy back some of your time, not have to train every single dog, not have to do every single sales call, not have to send out every single invoice, clean every kennel. The list goes on and on and on. So, I think the first thing to get in touch with is that exact idea, which is like, it's not about making 50K. It's not about making 100K in a month. It's about having a business that generates that much revenue. So it gives you the ability to afford other people. So before we go into everything else, like the 3 pillars I was talking about, Angel, why don't you give me your philosophy real quick on that? Because I know you talk to a lot of different dog trainers about this exact thing as well.
Yeah. Well, I would say like with majority of the conversations that I have with people, I guess just being like the specific clients that we work with, most of the time people are generally starting small and then they're growing as they're working with us. I would say most of the time people don't really know exactly like where they want to grow or how they want to grow or even, what that would look like in order to grow to where they ideally want to be. Because sometimes in people's minds, it's just like, I don't really want to have like a big company. Like I'm cool with just it being me working out of my house, things like that. And then other times it's like, I want to have a facility. I want to have a big team. I want to get to a point where like I'm not really like working in the business anymore. And so I think that oftentimes people just look at it just like very straightforward like that. But like as of recent, especially since you and I have been having like a lot of conversations on the back end in terms of like how we want to offer new ways of helping our clients or how to kind of like restructure some conversations. So I actually spoke with one of our clients recently about something similar to this. Like we had a conversation where he wanted to meet up to discuss some options for growth. Like he wanted to, I think he basically like capped out the number of dogs that he could take in a month, but he still wanted to grow. And then eventually he's like, you know what, never mind. I'm kind of like, I'm pretty much content with where we're at. So I get on a call with him and I'm like, I know you said like you're not really in a position where you want to grow, but like, tell me what you mean by that. Like, are you saying you don't want to grow a team? Are you saying you don't want to like add this or add that? Or are you genuinely telling me that you don't want to make more money? And he's like, I mean, I definitely want to make more money. And I'm like, okay, so like we can still find ways to help you grow, even if you're not necessarily wanting to make a hire right now. And so we talked through some ideas with that. And I will say with that, I feel like you can only do so much if you're like a one man business. You can only do so much in terms of growth, obviously, without like growing a team. But saying all that to say, again, I think a lot of times people just think of it as like one extreme or the other versus like other little things within the business that you can do on your own to help yourself grow. Also, in some cases, you just might not be in the position to grow in the way that you think. And so what I mean by that is like someone who, let's say, is only making X amount of sales a month as opposed to another number that they want to make. And they're like, hey, can we increase my ad spend by this amount because I want to get in more leads so that way I can make more sales and yada, yada, yada. Always a good idea to increase your ad spend. But like, even with that, it's something that I like to look even deeper into because it's like, while we can increase your ad spend, is it the best thing to do right now? Like, are we making the most of your leads right now? Are you nurturing the absolute best way that you can? Because if you're not, then you can do that and you'd be able to get away with what you're still paying and still get, more sales each month versus just thinking that you have to continue with the sales process that you've been used to that maybe isn't that great. And then you're just putting more money into trying to make yourself grow. And that just might not be the most productive way of doing things.
Yeah, super well said. And, just to kind of jump into the three pillars. So like I said before, marketing, sales, growing a team. So like operations, right? So
Mhm.
the first one you guys have heard us talk about a million times, and that's like marketing. So between marketing and sales, though, there's kind of like this overarching thing that's going to kind of bridge them together and make your marketing and your sales process a lot easier, which is your offers. So, or your main offer, right? So having a really good offer for your business makes it easier to market and much easier to sell. It's way easier to sell things that are compelling and people want to buy than having to try and sell something that people don't actually want to buy. And so
Mhm.
what I would tell you to do when I tell a lot of our clients is you need to focus on making something that is so good that even if you charge a lot more money for it, people are gonna be like, it's still worth all of the value. And so with that being said, again, it's easier to sell something that is, really a good offer as well. So once you have that offer dialed in, then you can put that all over your marketing materials. You can continuously talk about that and you can get people reaching out to you that actually want that thing that you're offering. And yeah, I think you touched on this before, working on the sales process is like a non-negotiable thing that needs to be done. I was talking to somebody yesterday and I have a follow-up call with them booked in a couple days. And they're a company that's already doing $1 million. And you would think to yourself, like, man, they have it all figured out. They're doing $1 million in their business already. But there's always places where we can improve as business owners, myself included. And when you realize, like, hey, there's a lot of people here that you're treating like if they don't buy, then they're never going to become a client. Whereas if you view them as like, hey, they were a good lead and they just didn't buy yet. So that means they have to become a client tomorrow and you stay in front of them. This is where a
Mhm.
lot of the hidden money is in most businesses. As the saying goes, the fortune is in the follow up. And yeah, I think a lot of us just treat it that way. Like, all I'm going to do is focus on like what lead came in today. So if you can really figure out your marketing strategy and your sales process and you get those things really dialed in and working really well, like you were talking about with paid ads, being able to have a system in place to turn those paid ads into actual paying clients, then what's going to happen is you would have no choice but to invest a lot of time and energy into your fulfillment. And what I mean by that is more specifically your hiring and building a team. And just to touch on this real quick, because I know there's going to be people who always say this, like, I don't even know if I want to have a team. And when I really break that down with people, most times what I hear from them is like, I don't want to have a team because I don't want to deal with the headaches of managing people. What I would tell you is like, first off, don't hire people who suck at what they do and need to be micromanaged. That's something I've seen time and time again is people are not patient. They wait to get to a place where they're so uncomfortable that they need to make a hire. And then because of that, they just bring in any sort of warm body to do the job. And then inevitably they don't do a good job. You get pissed off at them and you arrive at the conclusion that there's nobody that can do this except for me. Right. That's all documented, by the way, in this book, The E-Myth. I always recommend that book to everybody. But yeah, so, build a team of people who are competent that actually want to do it and make sure you're charging enough money to have enough profitability in the business to pay them well. That's another thing. Not charging enough for your services is actually not a selfish thing for you wanting to make more money. It's actually a selfish thing of you not really pricing your services correctly to be able to afford to pay your team well enough so that they can have like a livable wage and get treated
Mhm.
fairly. And yeah, so with that being said, most people to grow a $50,000 dog training business don't need to have a team of 10 trainers to do it. They probably need like one trainer themselves and a office admin, maybe a kennel tech, probably a kennel tech. But if it's
Mhm.
you, two people in fulfillment, and one person to help you stay organized and book your consultations, if you're willing to push it and you have the space, you can grow a $50,000 a month dog training business. So I know I just threw a lot of stuff out there, but Angel, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I was gonna touch on the hiring part. I think it's helpful because like these are the exact types of conversations that I'll have with people when it comes to hiring. And so I think it would be helpful for people to basically have these same conversations with themselves. And so what I'll do is like I will talk with people about obviously like everything going on in their business and really try to pinpoint where all of the bottlenecks are, where all of like their main stressors are and stuff like that. And then we basically like, and this is more so for people who are like unsure if they want to hire or if they do want to hire, they're unsure of what position to hire for. So once we kind of break down all the things that they're struggling with the most and, each bottleneck in their business, and we'll talk about like, okay, let's say hypothetically speaking, you had someone in this position who did this part of the job. How do you think that would affect you? And sometimes they might be like, I mean, it would help, but then I still have like this other thing going on. And I'm like, okay, so do you think it would be more beneficial if there were someone in this position? How would that affect you and your schedule? And they're like, actually, that would be like a huge game changer. So we really like, I guess, like weigh out all of the options and the pros and cons to the type of person as far as like the type of training that that person is going to require regardless of the position you're hiring for. Everyone is going to need training and going to need management because again, regardless of the position, if you don't do that, then you're kind of just causing yourself even more stress in the long run. So it's super important to consider that with everyone. So again, then we might go into like the type of training that that person would need for their job, what that would look like, what type of, work it would take from you or how that would adjust your schedule and things like that, just to kind of figure out what would make the most sense to place someone in their business. And all of it seems like very straightforward, but when you have a lot going on and you're doing so many things in your business and you're like on the verge of burnout, it's hard to think through those things. So that's why I like to break it down for people. But yeah, that's just kind of like an example of how I go through it with people. So I think it would be really helpful for others to kind of have that same conversation with themselves.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I think you just gave some really, really good advice there, which is really being selective about and analyzing in your business what is the actual constraint that we're facing right now. Is it we don't have enough work coming in? Well, that either means it's a leads problem or it's a sales problem, right? Because it's like if you don't have enough leads, then we need to fix that problem first. If it is a hey, we're getting leads, but none of these people are buying, and then it's like probably a speed to lead appointment setting problem and getting consultations booked. So if you can fix that, then all of a sudden that will, set up the next sequence of problems, which is going to be, how do I get all these dogs trained? But, if you're doing a good job and you have more work than you know what to do with, and you're booked out with consultations and people are, trying to bang down your door to try and get in to work with you, and you just can't get them in for months, then that is a fulfillment issue,
Hmm.
and, I was working with one of our clients, Jenny, and she was saying to me how she's like, I can't find good people. And I just encouraged her to go to Indeed. And she's like, man, this has been a game changer for me. We have a couple really good candidates here. And so what I would, encourage you guys to do if you're looking for a good person, you can tap into your network, see if there's any past clients that you think would be a good fit for, working for your company. But if you were sitting there thinking to yourself, like, I don't have anybody, there's nobody like that I feel like I could plug and play right now. Can't even think of any past clients that would want to do this. Go to Indeed, and don't just go to Indeed and post a organic listing and hope that like they promote it to the right person. Sponsor a listing for like $10 a day or whatever they recommend to you.
Hmm.
And it's just like marketing your business. For all of us that run paid ads, we know that like, hey, when I put this much money into my business, into my ads, this is what I get as a return on my investment. This is really no different. It is the type of return on investment is just kind of like, this is somebody that I'm going to hire that's going to enable me to get more freedom, be able to allow me to work on the business, not in the business every single day, and also just make a lot more money. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, it's like, how much does it take to recruit a good person? Even if it costs you $1,000 or $2,000 to find this person, but they allow you to take on an extra 4 board and trains a month, right? That's an extra 16 grand a month over the year, That's
Yeah.
$192,000. And so, what are you going to pay that person? Even if you pay them 50 grand and they helped you make it 160 grand, it's like you just added 110 grand to your business in the year because, you went and found them. So do
Yeah.
not think of this from the expense side of the profit and loss statement of like, what is it going to cost me? Think about like when I get the right person in place, this is how much revenue this is going to allow me to add to the business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, very cool. I feel like, we had to kind of keep this one a little bit short today. We can go into each one of these topics and these pillars and like way more in-depth episodes in the future. But we're going to wrap the episode up for today right now. And if there's anything that you guys got any value out of in this episode, make sure to drop it down in the comments below. Let us know what you like. Let us know if you have any questions about this. And let us know if there's any topics that you guys want us to cover. But with that being said, appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. And we will see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.